I think there is no disagreement that immigrants are a vibrant, very important part of the revival and continual vitality of America. Even when there are disagreements, I don't think any of your viewers, any new immigrant, should feel that either party is not in support of immigrants. America is a country of immigrants. We all come from someplace else except for the Native Americans. So immigration is an issue that has helped to enrich America. It has kept America dynamic and always competitive. The key issue now is there are 11 to 13 million illegal immigrants. Now the correct term is out of status. You're not supposed to use the term illegal anymore. So these are primarily people who have come into our country without proper documents. More than 70% are from Latin America and South America because they have the luxury, if you will use that word, to be able to come through the border. Most Asian Americans have to wait online. And all the stories that I know of with Asian Americans are of families who have waited decades to be able to come to America. So there are two sets of experiences with the immigrant population now, those who come legally and those who come illegally. And that is the key debate that is capturing the American attention. And I think it's healthy to have this kind of discussion because America is a very diverse, a very cacophonous society. And it is only when there are important issues like this that people come together, talk about it, disagree about it, discuss it, that a common national consensus develops, and therefore a solution is found. But without this national discussion, there can be no national solution. Because once again, this is a very vibrant democracy with people with very different points of view. And if there's not a national consensus, which obviously there has not been so far, this immigration issue cannot be resolved. And the main issue is amnesty. So for Asian Americans, I understand this issue very, very well because I myself am inexperienced in it. My father came first when he was a bright young man full of promise and hopes and dreams. And he took a national examination, scored #1, and that's how he came to America. But he could not bring my mother, my 2 sisters, and me because he did not have the financial resources, but also he did not have the documentation for us. So my mother was then 7 months pregnant, and she assured him, "You go ahead, seek a better life for our family. I will take care of the family." My father was so moved by those words and so comforted. That is why he is always, throughout his whole life, so grateful to my mother's support, encouragement, and love for what he has to do. So everything that he has been able to achieve, he attributes to my mother. So I understand this immigration issue on a very deep emotional level myself. And I think for Asian Americans, we must not be left behind. That for any immigration issue, that our situation be taken into account and that we are not left behind the pack when these immigration issues are being discussed. And most of us come legally, we wait online, we have families that wait 20, 30 years to be reunited, and that has to be addressed as well. You know, my position has always been consistent. I don't take any comfort in that I was right. What I do want to emphasize is that the whole issue about quotas and goals is extraordinarily important to the aspirations of Asian Americans in this country. I was on the board of the Harvard Alumni Association, and that's how I learned about how colleges admit its students, its class. Ever since the 1960s, all the universities have adopted a social experiment whereby they try to admit their incoming class in ratios that approximate the national population. So if Asian Americans are only 5.7% as they are now, that is all the space they will be allowed in a class. If, for example, they're so smart and they're so capable and they're admitted in much larger numbers, like at Harvard, like 22% or more in some other schools,
23, yes.
Then they are what's called a overrepresented minority. That means, in essence, that they are admitted by a higher standard than other populations. I think that is unfair. America was built on meritocracies, a sense of justice and fairness, and people should get in based on their merit. This is a huge issue, and if you'll just bear with me for one more second. It used to be that merit was defined as your grades, your scholastic achievements. And then Asian Americans understood that. So we got the best grades. And then they changed the rules. They said, well, you have to have well-roundedness. So that means a student has to be strong in sports, good in music, other things besides scholarship. Okay, we Asian Americans understand that. We can do that too. So we became the best in violins. We became the editor of the student yearbook. We became the student government president. So the schools changed their rules again. They said, no, we want leadership. Leadership as defined by volunteerism. So we want these young students, applicants, to be active in their community, to volunteer. And so I have always said, that's not our culture. Our culture is very family-oriented. After school, we go back home. We study. We listen to our parents. We stay together. You know, and so I say to these, I was on a scholarship panel, Coca-Cola scholarship panel, and they gave more of the scholarships to other people, and I was fighting for Asian Americans, but that's another story. So I said, that's not our culture. And they also said, oh, these Asian American youngsters, they're not showing leadership because they're so quiet in the personal interviews. And I said, this is not our culture. Our culture is we are deferential, we are considerate, we do not interrupt when you say something. You know, so I've always been fighting for Asian Americans. This SC5 is terrible, and I'm especially disappointed that there were 3 Asian American legislators in the California state legislature. They actually voted for this. Then they switched, but they first voted for it because everybody else in the legislature voted for this preferential bill against Asian Americans. So they thought, you know, we have other minorities and we don't want to anger other people, so they voted for it. It was only after Asian Americans rose up and protested that these 3 Asian American legislators backtracked and reversed their standing. So this is a huge issue now in California. It's also a huge issue in Virginia, right outside of Washington, where we have very capable Asian American young people who cannot go into either the high school of their choice or the college of their choice because they do not fit. We do not fit into the social experiment. Right now, our numbers are 5.7%. Our young people are so much more capable and able to join and enter these universities than 5.7%. And so because we are an overrepresented minority, because our numbers are admitted in larger numbers than 5.7%, we are held to a higher standard. So for example, at some of these universities, and I'm not going to name them because they're going to get upset, but they tried to construct a class of 17% Hispanic Americans, 14% African Americans, 6% Asian Americans, and then the rest is white and legacy. But they're not able to fulfill that. And so if you are a student, an Asian American student that's trying to get into an Ivy League school, for example, on average, you have 11% chance. If you are a white student, you'll probably have a 17% chance. And if you are African American, you have about probably 33% chance. If you're a Hispanic American, you get probably about 25%. Now, I don't want to name the school, but you can guess. This is the ratios in which they are, these different students are admitted. But the point is that Asian Americans wind up competing with other Asian Americans. Mm-hmm. So Asian American scholastic record in all these top Ivy League schools far surpass that of any other community group, majority or minority. Their GPA is higher, their SAT, to the extent that they take SATs or ACTs now, are higher. So this is not fair because over 65% of Asian Americans are recent immigrants. We are the largest percentage of people who are newly arrived. We are aspirational, we are hardworking, we contribute so much to this country. And America must hold true to its promise to immigrants that everyone will be treated fairly and equally based on the merits. And that's what I've always advocated, that Asian Americans, should not be discriminated against. If we deserve to get into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever, UCLA, Berkeley, so be it. We deserve to get in.